Well, greetings, everyone. It's me, Nick Michalak, and the excellent Steve Frazier.
Happy New Year, everyone.
And we are finally getting around to a commentary for Cujo, the Stephen King adaptation from 1983.
Yep, this is going to be good. We haven't done a King in a while.
And this is the 4K edition we're watching from King of Lorber. And with the King of Lorber release, there's actually like a little 10-second ident for King of Lorber that comes up when you hit play from the menu. You want to get beyond that if you have this version. So you want to get to the thing where it has the proper, like, 130-hour, 36-minute time code, and we'll start from there. So, guys, get your subtitles turned on. Timestamp over to 0 for that. You'll get synced up with a countdown. So, in 3, 2, 1, play.
We were just talking off air. We kind of planned this about a year ago because they announced that there was this 4K coming.
Yeah.
And I said, I've never read that one. So, let me read it. And there's Dee Wallace. More about her in a while.
Oh, yeah.
And I want to say it was March or so that I read the book.
Yeah, feels right.
And because we were thinking it was coming out in like September.
Well, because the 40th anniversary was in August. We were kind of figuring they'd probably get it out by then, and that's when we were planning on it, but it kind of came out in October, then we got jammed up with schedules.
Right. And here we are. It's January as we are recording.
Yeah.
It's snowing as we're recording. Danny Pintauro as Tad. And we open with this serene, Charlie Bernstein.
Yes.
My man. We open with this beautiful, like, Walt Disney nature shot.
Yeah. And the whole thing with the opening title screen, because Bernstein was kind of like, okay, and we're going to start this thing off with like kind of a nice, light melody and stuff like that, like you're saying. It was like, once he eventually got kind of working through the whole film and kind of figured out a theme for it, let's get a proper, like, opening title there to kind of set the kind of like the horror stage, to get the promise to the audience that we're getting somewhere, but we're not there quite yet.
I like it. And I saw your boy, Jan de Bont.
Oh, yes.
I know, he's you're a favorite of yours.
Oh, cinematographer on Die Hard, Black Rain, Hunt for October, director of Speed and Twister.
And look at that pup.
Oh, yeah.
Is he not adorable?
And he said that, no one exactly knew how many they had on set. There was maybe like 5, 6, or 7 of them they had trained for different duties.
At one point, my best friend Randy, his family owned a St. Bernard.
Okay.
And it was the most lovable damn thing. But my God, was it drooly. Mm-hmm. The drool on this dog. Holy Lord.
Not as bad as this film, but
it was close.
It's gonna get slobbery.
It was close. I'm interested to see, like you said, even if they had 5 dogs, how close the color patterns were.
Sure, yeah.
You know, like, are there times when it's a faraway shot and we just can't tell that that's a different dog?
Well, as the thing goes along, when it starts getting all covered with all the kind of goop and gore or whatnot, it's probably easier to hide it.
I would agree. I just didn't know if there was like a hero dog and then like subsequent.
Yeah, I don't know. They didn't really specify that much, but when they got into more particular sequences, they had a guy in an actual dog suit.
Shut up!
Like close-up shot stuff to kind of like when it had to be a little bit more, taking more hits and stuff like that. That was more of a thing.
That's incredible. As we're recording this, I just got back from vacation, and the resort that I was at has bats that like live on the property.
Okay.
So they're flying around at night. It's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
That was a neat little
reveal there.
Yeah, with the Lewis Teague. The name sounds really familiar. I feel like he's done other things.
Well, he also did Cat's Eye, I believe, after the Anthology King film.
Right.
But originally they had a different director, Peter Medak, who had done The Changeling, and then I was just looking up the filmography. I knew he did The Changeling, but then after that he did Zorro the Gay Blade.
Of course.
But he came on this thing with very weird ideas about the whole thing that Dee Wallace was not comfortable with, like having sort of this sexual undercurrent in the entire thing is like something born out of the adultery angle in the entire film, but she wasn't having any of it. And a lot of the other people just like weren't vibing with it whatsoever. So he worked about 2 days on the film, and they called up Teague, who was the producer's original choice for the whole thing before kind of studios or whoever else was kind of like pushing and prodding for something else or whatever the case was. But he was very excited to get on the film, but he kind of got swerved out of it. But then they kind of just called him up and brought him in and did like a 2-day prep to get him up to speed on everything.
How cute is Danny Pintauro? Speaking of gay blades.
I didn't know.
He's one of the best dressed men right now.
Okay.
Love that guy. Anyway, so cute. And what I always thought was interesting, and I didn't realize until I read the book,
Sure.
This takes place in Castle Rock.
Yes.
And in the book, the boogeyman that is in his closet is the same boogeyman that haunts the town, which is Frank Dodd, the serial killer from the Dead Zone.
Dead Zone, yeah, I was going to say. Yeah.
And it's not like he sees Frank Dodd specifically in the closet, but Frank Dodd is the town boogeyman because he was like their serial killer.
Yeah, okay.
That, you know, Christopher Walken put to bed.
And it was either Teague or one of the screenwriters saying like they really kind of removed that from this version. I mean, not saying like it was Frank Dodd, but just like a supernatural presence because just couldn't figure out exactly how to slot it into this presentation of the story.
Right, which I feel like they did a good job of. Like, they need to set up that he's afraid of something. Like, he's afraid of the dark, he's afraid of the monster in the closet.
Yeah.
Which kind of lends itself to the monster words that are written out later on. So I guess instead they kind of foreshadow the dog.
Yeah, it's nice.
You know, which that's fine.
Yeah.
Dee Wallace and Danny Pintauro were both at the horror convention that I went to the night of. I've told the story of the night of that I met Greg Nicotero, and they were both there that same evening.
Okay.
In fact, that was kind of one of the. She was kind of integral in the whole thing. Nicotero was having dinner with Dee Wallace in the restaurant that we were at.
Why wouldn't you want to?
Right. And so our waiter, my buddy Mark, we said to Mark, the waiter, "Hey, over there, that's Greg Nicotero and Dee Wallace." I said, "Do you know what they're drinking?" Mm-hmm. And he said that I think they were both drinking red wine or something.
Sure.
And I said, "I'd like to buy a glass. Can you send a glass over to Mr. Nicotero?" And my best friend, Randy, says, "I'll buy one for Dee Wallace."
Yes.
And so they brought 2 glasses of wine over. And then they kind of turned and looked, and we waved. And they came over to our table afterward to say thank you. Dee Wallace went to her room. Nicotero stayed for 4 hours. So, look at that. No, I love the Scoobs.
But yeah, everything I see about Dee Wallace, she seems like the sweetest person in the world.
Agreed. I don't know how detailed they get in the movie, I forget, about the cereal. And, all right, but the cereal that he's eating, the Sharp cereal, Sharp is the company that the dad
works for? Okay,
the marketing agent. So they have like a free lifetime supply of these cereals.
Yeah.
And this is a thing that always kind of made, like, I realized that they had to set up some sort of indication that, like, they're having an affair.
Sure.
But as far as I remember, like, the husband and Steve Kemp didn't even, like, know each other in the book. So in this presentation, I was, like, kind of off-put. Yeah. That...
It's like an old buddy of his.
Right. They're like friends. And you're like, wait, that's weird. Yeah. But that's fine.
It works for a shorthand. And of course, Dee Wallace and Christopher Stone were married at the time. They'd previously worked together on The Howling with one of the producers on this film, Dan Blatt. And it was basically him kind of championing both of them being in the film.
And this was actually a pretty big plot point in the story, like at least in the novel, about that television character of the professor.
Okay.
Is a concept that Vic, that's his name, Vic, like came up with. Okay. Like he created this ad campaign.
Okay, yeah.
But like in the movie here, these two are like best friends.
Yeah.
And you're like, wait, that's weird. I don't know if that is just to drive home the betrayal or something, you know?
Yeah, like I said, I think it's just a easy shorthand, and it's also kind of just creates more interesting dynamics.
Right, sure.
And this was a particular scene here where originally we're going to cut into a scene with them actually having sex, but Dee was pretty much like, I don't do nudity, I'm not really comfortable doing that type of stuff. And there was just, even though we want Christopher Stone in the whole thing, not just because of this, but we think he's a really good fit for the part, and they're trying to shoot the scene, and things were just, Stone was like way too hyper active about the entire thing, about making sure you're not shooting my woman from weird angles or anything like that. You're picking up anything where she's wearing a certain dress or something like that. And so they just came up with this more sort of lighthearted version of it, where he just wakes her up with the trombone.
And all of this is like different than the book.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Like it's obviously more detailed.
Mm-hmm.
The affair, I think, happens in this house,
her home.
Yeah, where he's like the handyman or something, and
yeah.
He's so cute. Oh, here we go. I love the old, our marriage is failing, let's just have another kid.
Yeah, he's going to fix something.
Jesus Christ.
It's not working out. Let's see what happens after 9 months.
Well, right. Like, let's just both be responsible for yet another human.
Yeah.
Where we have to work together even more.
Yeah. Nice car.
That's a beautiful car.
Oh, yeah.
I like that they have the little Maine accent in some of the characters.
Yeah, a little bit. They shot this in Northern California just for convenience and budget and everything. I mean, some of the scenery it kind of feels like it could be New England to a certain degree, but it still has a certain tinge of California. I think it's just, you don't really have that coastal overcast weather or something else like that. That's a good casting job.
And the postman, this is set up just like in the book.
Okay.
The postman actually plays a little bit bigger role.
Hmm.
Well, you know how Stephen King likes to just...
It's more explored.
Right. And I get it. Like, you can't just... The book is 300 pages. You can't have a 300-minute movie.
No.
You know, like, I get it. Don't get me wrong. There's a concept that isn't found much anymore. People just playing baseball with themselves outside.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to say, in the novel, they meet Cujo in this scene.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's here.
It's a weird time, right, where people would just go to somebody's house.
Yeah.
To be...
There it is.
Look at this dog. Oh my God.
It's a great thing. I mean, got the music just coming in. It's a little slow motion. Just gives just that weight.
I know what...
Before it's actually gotten a certain menace to itself, it's still setting it up as foreboding.
Right.
Foreshadowing, in a way.
You know what it is, now that I'm remembering? This happens, it's out of order. This happens in the book before he gets bit.
Okay.
So...
Okay, that makes some sense.
So, they meet him and he's a friendly dog.
Yeah.
Not that he's not friendly here, but...
Yeah.
It's...
Before things befall it.
Right. So... You set it up as, we've already met this friendly dog, and there's no reason to worry.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think they really have it. See, like...
Yeah, it's showing the bite.
Right. And there's like, should we be concerned?
Yeah.
Like, because, like, as a movie viewer, you think, well, maybe he's already going to, like, be aggressive or something.
Snap it at someone.
Right. But in the book, you have time to establish the dog is a good character before it becomes a bad character.
Yeah. It's gotta be slightly confusing on set. Okay, he's Daniel Hugh-Kelly, and then we got Danny Pintauro, making sure you're getting the right person's attention between takes.
Oh, Danny, yes. Yes.
And then one of the producers is named Dan.
Which is a much more common name than either Tad or Vic.
Yeah. I guess Kelly had just come off of a string of soap operas, but he would end up going on...
This guy?
Yeah. Daniel Kelly would be on, after this, be in about Stephen J. Cannell series called Hardcastle McCormick for about 3 seasons.
That name sounds familiar. I've never watched it, but
I've never watched, but I've
heard of it.
The opening sequence. I know the theme music is a Mike Post theme music, so you know it's great.
Is it like a cop show?
Sort of. Basically, he stars alongside Brian Keith, who plays a retired judge, and he was a race car driver turned thief, who's his last case. And then together they decided to go off and kind of tie up the loose ends of like 200 cases that slipped through the judge's court.
Oh,
so it's
okay.
a slight vigilante type of thing. That was very popular. Sort of A-Team, Knight Rider ideas, stuff like that. It was just like, again, Another show that had like a very specific sporty car at the center of it all.
Wow. So that was really well conveyed.
Yeah.
That, like, even by now, and we're, 15, 20 minutes in, you already realize that, like, that's the slogan, and the TV man has turned it against him.
Yeah.
And... Oh, so there's some exposition for you.
Yeah.
This is basically how it's set up, that he has to, like, go out of town for an emergency ad meeting.
Yeah.
Like, figure out how are we going to deal with this.
Yeah.
This snafu.
Salvage the whole thing.
Right, right. I like that shirt she's got on. I actually have a dress shirt that's very similar to that.
Yeah.
That's pink with a solid white collar. That was well done too.
I mean, as it is a King thing, but I like the fact that the story is very character driven. Everything's very well fleshed out with the characters, and you have inner dynamics and playing off of that instead of just trying to focus on one thing, a dog ripping people apart.
Every person in this story has their own story.
Yeah.
Everybody's important in their own way. Some might be minor, some might be major. There's a storytelling trope, I don't know the right word, that Stephen King actually brings up in... Technique, maybe. He actually jokes about it in one of his more current novels, Billy Summers, which is yet to be adapted. And in that, the character reveals that, like, whenever there's a character, even a minor character, they should always be seen twice.
Okay.
Like,
that's a nice idea.
Like you said it, like if you're showing them once, it's important enough that they need to be seen again.
All right.
So, or like, I don't know. So in that story, a minor character circles back at the end to become like a reveal as actually important, that you dismissed her early on. And that notion has always stuck with me, that like even the minor characters that he writes are important enough to mean something somewhere in the mix.
Yeah, that's cool. And it was such a thing, because they of course they test screened the whole thing, and they found that people were mildly engaged at the beginning of it, but once the actual ferocity starts, they're really on the edge of their seat.
Right.
And so they had the thought of like, let's cut out a whole bunch of other stuff at the beginning of the film, get to the good stuff later. They found that when they cut all that stuff out, people didn't care as much in the last half of the film.
Right, exactly.
Which is indicative of one of our last commentaries, Poseidon, where they chopped all the character development out at the beginning of the film and don't really give a shit later on when things are starting to happen to people.
The whole point, the whole point of watching a movie is, I mean, yes, you care about the events of the movie, but those events don't mean anything unless you have some semblance of care for the characters that are going through them.
Right.
So, I mean, we've done damn near 200 commentaries, and how many B horror movies have we watched where
just
it's just
fodder?
Right. It's literally just a cast of characters, and as they die off, we go, so what?
Even some of the characters in the films act like they don't care much either.
Exactly. So this is a change, and in the book, the Steve character goes to their house I think to like hook up, and she turns him down and says it's over.
Yeah.
And at no point does Vic have any knowledge of this.
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't see them. He doesn't suspect.
Yeah.
Like, his involvement in their relationship is non-existent
Yeah.
at this point. And, you know, so you say to yourself, like, if you're an adaptation person and you're reading the books and you say, well, why did they choose to do this? I guess it speeds along his suspicions and his urge to come home.
Right.
At the end.
Yeah, when he starts calling up, it's like there's no response. Like, mine's going not where the film is for us, the audience, but it's going off in directions like maybe she ran off with him.
Right.
Took the kid with and stuff like that. And,
right, which is, again, to your point, a character trait that perhaps would be harder to imply had they not chosen to make that addition.
Yeah. And it's even more particular the fact that Kemp goes out there without a shirt on. It's just a little more of a telltale type of thing. If he was just going out there and it's maybe like a chance encounter they have, but the fact that he's not wearing a shirt just it tips something off to your brain. It's less easy to rationalize out of your head. Why is he running outside with just a pair of jeans on?
Right. There's been debauchery happening.
Yeah.
I find it interesting at this point in the movie that we've not yet met Camber's neighbor down the road.
Yeah, he comes in about the halfway point, maybe.
Right, and so you meet him immediately in the book.
Okay.
And again, to your point, the fact that you have knowledge and that is a whole separate character being developed, it creates new layers when he is involved later on.
Yeah.
This is a good... she's got a six-pack of Coke in the bottle. Love that.
Old school Coke. Before all that new Coke nonsense.
Right.
They apparently brought in a particular guy to kind of do all the dog sounds.
The dog
and
makeup?
The growls, the growls and everything for the soundtrack. It comes out really, really well.
Yeah. I like that they've already done, like, the sunken eyes and such. And one of the other things that I loved about the book... Oh, this doesn't make any sense here if you're just watching it.
It does get explained in a minute here, but we're not really shown it beforehand.
Right. One of the things that I really liked about the novel, and it's totally a Stephen King thing that's impossible to translate, is... we'll come back to the engine hoist in a minute.
Sure.
While I'm thinking about this. There's a lot of little passages in the book that are from the dog's point of view.
Oh, that's nice.
That are... Gee, I don't feel well today. Or, like, something feels weird.
That's nice.
Like, boy, these flowers don't smell the same. Whatever it is.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and it just kind of shows from the dog's point of view.
That's
and
nice.
Clearly you can't do that.
No.
Like,
without getting hokey.
You just show a progression of demise.
Yeah.
But I loved the little excerpts. This is we'll come back to the engine hoist, which it was a chain fall in the book. I don't know why they changed it. Who cares? So there's a lot of explaining in the book about how she wants to go away.
Sure.
and he would never let her. And
Yeah.
he beats her, and he beats the kid,
Yeah.
and all of this. And
We got a little taste of it in this scene here, but it's not as explicit as I imagine it is in the book.
so I bet that we just jump right to the the gift giving, as opposed to the leading up to it, the purchase of it, the planning,
Sure.
maybe if I give him a gift, he'll let me go away. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, just explain it.
Yeah,
It works better. Like,
Sure.
I feel like those are the kinds of things that you go, okay, I understand.
sure. Yeah, I really love Ed Lauter here playing Camber. It's great. He was a great character actor. Did a lot of diverse things. He can be a really great charismatic actor, and he really shows that here.
He really looks like a lot of Stephen King New England villains.
He looks like he's down the road from Judd Crandall.
Right, yes.
Even the house feels like it.
I'm thinking of the character in Dolores Claiborne that David Strathairn played.
Okay.
They're virtually the same.
All
it's
right.
like it's like so great. I was drinking a Hamm's, the beer refreshing, the unofficial sponsor of my To the Table podcast.
Okay.
I don't drink beer. I don't like beer. But I'm a sucker for marketing. And Ham's beer has one of the greatest little dancing bear characters. So I actually have quite a large supply of Ham's beer in my fridge currently, as we record this, right now, of which I will ever have 0. But they're for my friends when they come over.
It's like I haven't watched Who's the Boss in like 30 years, so it's like I had no recollection of how good he actually was as an actor.
Yeah. Well, especially because, I mean, what is he here, 5 or 6?
I think it was about 6. He couldn't even read yet.
Oh, okay.
So they had to almost like, his mother had to pretty much
like
orally tell him
give
all
him the lines,
and
right.
everything.
Right.
You'd probably be able to read to some extent, but not quite as much to read through a script and comprehend it that way.
Oh, I actually took some notes as I was reading the book, just because
Yeah.
I like doing that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I forgot that after she calls it off, that he writes a letter and like mails it to them.
Intriguing, just on the off chance.
Well, and then I believe he like leaves town. So they added this extra layer of
Threat of sorts.
Right,
Conflict, intimidation, menace.
right. So then, and this is more what happened during the initial like calling it off scene.
Okay. Oh.
Right, where she says no,
Yeah.
and then he says this.
I feel after hearing Dee's comments about the other sequence they had in the script about the sex scene and everything, I don't think she would have done this if it wasn't her own husband in the scene.
Maybe not.
Maybe
not.
Lifting up the skirt and everything like that. It just seems a little. I guess she would do a little bit more risque things later on in her career, but at that point in time, she was not comfortable doing that stuff. That's
Really, all of this is so well acted.
yeah, and that I mean, just showing her down there, that's just a great character moment. Just like, man, what she's got to be feeling in this moment. She's got these rocky relationships dissolving right in front of her, and there's nothing she can do trapped between them.
And also, I guess if we're really getting Freudy or like psychological, she's like down on her knees, and like cleaning up the mess, you know, like
that she's got herself into.
Right, like she's sunken lower, like literally on the floor. So there is a little bit of a visual metaphor, which I don't normally think about things like that because, you know, sometimes a cigar is just a cigar. But when you want to see things, it's kind of fun to.
And then again, that past scene, just like he asks the question, she just turns her head and says yes.
Right. Like, wow.
It just, all it took was that him passing him on the street and suspecting something, and then seeing this, like, you have to be an idiot not to ask the question, whether out loud or to yourself. You'd have to confront it. And then you got the kid.
Well, the kid is a nice little conduit, like bridge between them. That was a really sweet scene in the book when he writes out the monster words, quote unquote.
Okay.
And they do come into play later on. I don't remember if they do in the movie.
These, I mean, performances are so good.
I see your point about this being a California coast.
Yeah.
Like, okay, maybe it passes for New England, but...
To a degree, yeah.
Yeah, there was...
That's really beautiful.
It is really good. You know, he read it to him every night, and now he's got to go away, and what's going to happen? And then there was this whole thing where the kid... What's the kid's name? Brett.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Brett, like, sees that something's wrong with Cujo.
Yeah.
And then doesn't tell anybody because he thinks that if he says something... the dad's going to be like, now you can't go. You have to stay here and take care of your dog.
Yeah.
Or maybe the mom says, we can't tell him.
Yeah, something along
He'll
those
be
lines.
fine, you know. But the fog is a nice little ominous touch, right?
Apparently they had, like, weather problems all over the place. Like, they're trying to shoot this sequence, and there was no fog whatsoever, so they were trying some ways to work around it, but eventually I think it rolled in. And the fact is, they weren't shooting this in summer.
Oh, no?
When you get to the later sequences where they're trapped in the car, they're freezing their asses off.
Oh, I bet. Well, that really goes against the whole idea that it's 120 degrees outside.
Right. Because, I mean, obviously this gets released in August, but that probably means they're probably shooting about 10 months beforehand.
I was going to say September, October, November before.
Yeah.
That really looks so good.
The sick all over them, yeah.
Yeah, I wish there was a way somehow to have those little thoughts from Cujo's point of view.
Yeah.
About, like, I know the boy. The boy is nice, but I don't feel the same way about the boy or something. Like,
yeah. I mean, they're doing a very good job visually. I mean,
right.
The dog is very emotive.
Right.
And apparently they had whoever they first got on the film, I don't know if it's the same trainer or whoever they were talking to about the whole thing. It's like, oh, there's no Saint Bernards that have been trained. Try Doberman or something else like that. It's like, no, it's got to be the Saint Bernard. It has to be.
Right. I mean, how could it
just can't?
How could it be
any
something
other way.
different? Yeah. The tension between them is just perfect.
Yeah, yeah. And just because
the kid's there.
Right.
Is she barefoot?
I think she's got slippers.
It's a beautiful home.
Oh, yeah. I think it's all just basically a facade. I don't think it was an actual thing because they loved the view of the location so much. They actually built just like a hollow facade. And then all the stuff interior is probably another location or a sound stage, maybe, yeah.
Maybe they did like they did for Pet Sematary, where they just took an existing house and built up.
Yeah.
You know.
Possibly, yeah.
That is still one of my absolute favorite little tidbits about Pet Sematary.
Yeah.
If you go back and listen to our commentary, you probably have heard this story, but if not, the Judd Crandall house across the street is like a single-story, small little yellow house.
Yeah, a little ranch or something.
Yeah. And they literally, like, built 3 corners of the Judd Crandall, like, Victorian.
Yeah, with the asbestos.
Right.
They set it on fire.
Basically a firewall behind it. And burned it down.
Yeah.
Assuring the little old lady that her house behind would be totally fine. And it was.
See, they're talking about exactly what you're on about. She's mother saying, "Don't tell him about the dog. He'll handle it."
Okay. And then another little subplot, and I really like. Sometimes I go all in on these comparisons.
For sure.
One of the other things that was really a subplot, like again, that neighbor down the road, Gary, I think his name is. Like we spent a lot of time in the novel, like with him.
Sure.
And there's like Joe, the drunken abusive husband here, has his own idea of like, okay, how about we take some of this lottery money and you and I go on a bender somewhere.
Yeah.
Like we go out of town.
Yeah, it's kind of what he was saying there when they're slamming drinks around.
Like, do people live like this?
I think so. Just not anywhere close to here. Some Coors.
He's got Coors, though. He doesn't have Hams.
Lots of Coors and Budweiser.
And Coke? Oh, there's a Hams. I see a Hams. I was going to say, they were drinking Hams in the kitchen. Why is it all Coors out and Budweiser's out in the thing? I guess he doesn't care. He'll drink any old beer.
Yeah. These dogs must have gotten a real nice bath at the end of each day.
Can you imagine?
Because you can't leave all that stuff on that we get rank real fast. I'm sure they get pretty ornery if you don't clean them up.
So
this is all great.
Yeah, I'm curious.
I like how they also use the point of view shots at point in time.
Of the dog?
At certain points, yeah. Whoever trains these dogs did a phenomenal job with it.
I always feel like the animal handlers don't get enough credit.
Wow.
In particular, when the dog is a main character.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of movies have dogs in them.
Sure, yeah.
But whatever. Like,
they're not doing this.
The dog isn't... And this is right out of the book. Like, down the hall. Like, it's just as I pictured it.
In fact, you had to have some people actually wrestling with the dog in this regard. It's like,
Right.
That's not the trainer. It's just an actor.
Well, it's probably a stunt guy.
Maybe
but,
he's a stunt guy they cast for the role. But still, I mean...
And a lot of these quick edits so you don't really know what's going on.
Yeah, so they, like I said, they could hide some of the guy, if they're using the guy in the suit or whatnot, they can use these close-ups and quick shots to kind of work on it just to have a little more control of the situation.
So I wrote down that...
Look at this shot, the fact the big wide open thing, he steps in the shot is like... Just priming you for some of the really inspired, incredible shots you're getting on later on.
I wrote down that kill of Gary was Cujo's first kill, and it happened on page 112 out of 303. So a little bit more than a third of the way through.
Yeah.
And we're almost halfway through the movie. So for pacing, it's actually, I don't know. Like, I'm not sure which I like better.
I mean, as we talked midpoints and screenplays and everything like that, this is about where it happens. So, have the fact that the dog finally goes full ravenous at that midway point is a nice turn.
Right.
That's where the escalation starts in the film.
Right, and clearly it's not the dog going rabid that is the midpoint. That has to be set up earlier.
Yeah.
But we'll get to the midpoint here in a minute.
Yeah. Real good.
Nice
set design and everything.
Look at that. I mean,
the gore is great.
And this would have predated my buddy Nicotero a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
I don't remember who was credited on this one, but...
I didn't really catch... Actually, I had an interview with someone on the disc itself. An interview with visual effects artist Kathy Lawrence and special effects designer Robert Clark. Not terribly familiar with their names or what they've done before.
Well, even if they were one-offs or, this was their peak.
Yeah.
They were still really, really good in what they did here.
Yeah.
I wish that, to the point that I made earlier, I wish that they had shown more scenes of him being a loving, friendly dog.
Yeah, maybe.
I want to say that the scene in the book when they met for the first time, Tad, gets on his back and rides him like a horse because he's so... The comparison between... Now, Tad's only 4 in the book.
Okay.
So, a 4-year-old could easily ride a St. Bernard, She is so beautiful.
Oh, yeah. And she seems like she can be a really... I mean, this thing definitely shows it, but she can be a really immersive actor overall. The stuff I saw her doing, the Howling, and then later on the Frighteners, when she's doing almost a very off-the-wall type of performance towards the end of the film, where it's very hysterical, homicidal maniac type of thing. It's like it turns her image completely on its head, so she's playing something completely different from what she usually does. I mean, she can do a wide range of different things. She's phenomenal.
So, them pulling into the house here at 50 minutes is the midpoint of our movie.
Yeah.
This is where the story takes the pivot.
Yes.
And I had actually written down in my notes that they encounter Cujo for the first time on page 148, which is almost exactly the midpoint of the book. So, in that case, like, they're doing a great job.
Yeah.
Like, all in all, until we get to the end of the movie, this is like one of the best adaptations.
And
everything in this car is broken is a good little setup line.
Yeah.
Go ahead. What?
We'll address it when we get to the end, but King did have some positive comments regarding the change of the ending.
Okay. Well, all of the movie ending is positive compared to the book ending. Really.
That's just great stuff. I mean, Teague was talking so much in the old documentary on the disc here. It's like he wanted to have a little bit of a misdirection, whatnot. Okay, you got the driver's side door open, you're kind of creeping up with the camera behind her, thinking you're going to get it from that angle.
Right.
Then you hit him from the other angle completely. It's like, it's really good. It's just good suspense. You're still anticipating something, but it's not coming from where you want, expecting it, and it's taking just a little longer to get there than you are anticipating.
Right, like it's the perfect misdirection.
Yeah.
And then here we've got the monster in the closet, which is...
Yeah.
That is so good.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
Look at this kid.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, can we create a category at the Oscars for, like, child actor?
Yeah.
Like 10 and under or something.
Something, yeah. Oh.
Like, it's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Like, this is kind of a hold your breath moment.
Yeah. In fact, I mean, you know the car's busted and it's like
it won't go anywhere.
Yeah.
This is so perfect.
Oh, yeah. Their energies are so much in sync from this point onwards.
Right. Like, I'm just mesmerized by this kid.
Apparently, he was fairly mature about dealing with the entire situation between takes and calling action, calling cut, knowing how to break away from the fantasy they're building and everything. Because Dee was really kind of like really taking care of him. Like, reassuring him, you know, this is fantasy, where it's not really happening to us and stuff like that. But she's also talking in other interviews like, your body doesn't know that you're trying to react to something.
Look at
it's
the
not
goop.
real.
The goop out of the eyes.
Yeah.
The mud.
Yeah. But yeah, she was saying in the more recent interviews, like, even though you're play acting and stuff like that, your body's still having a real reaction to everything that's going on. So it really does take its toll on you. So really have to kind of just get into the proper mindset to kind of disconnect yourself in that regard.
Nice little design there with the little sweat beads.
Mm-hmm. And this is such a concept you couldn't place it today because cell phones screw up the entire plot.
Right.
You could contrive saying, "Oh, there's no cell service," or anything like that, but just setting in this thing like where you know there's just no other option whatsoever. Either survive or the slimmest possibility of escaping.
Her facial change.
Yeah.
Just as the car stalled.
Yeah.
I'm so angry that horror films, genre films, don't get recognition.
I mean, the further along we go in this whole thing, there's a lot in this film that could really
Look
get
at
that
Danny's
kind of
face.
attention.
Look at Danny's face.
Yeah, that's just abject terror. I mean, at this point, I would nominate both of them, entirely for the performance they put on
Right.
for the rest of the film here. I think today it would get more,
Probably.
a stronger chance towards
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, after that Jordan Peele bullshit one.
I just feel like, just in general, horror gets a lot more credit these days than it got 40 years ago. The complexion of the genre gets a lot more positive light shown on it than they did back in this day when there's honestly, I mean, back in early 80s, there was a lot of schlock. And it kind of sowed a lot of general opinions about the genre. Now I think a lot of people kind of live through the classics and all the stuff that's gone through over the decades and everything they've looked at upon. It's like there's a lot of really phenomenal stuff in the genre. They kind of take a lot of the stuff today a lot more seriously in that regard.
I don't remember. Obviously, I was alive at this time, but I have no knowledge of what the politics of the Academy were.
Oh, sure.
I know, though, in general, that if the studio believes in something,
Yeah.
you will go after and market as such.
Yeah.
So, I wasn't paying attention. You already had it loaded up. Which studio put this out?
Well, they said that, well, originally I think they were setting up at Columbia, but then eventually was picked up by Warner Brothers.
Okay.
But the license on the spine of this thing is from Paramount. So I don't know, it must have jumped around from distributor to distributor over the years. So, I mean, just says Taft Entertainment Company.
So, yeah,
it's probably just more of a more or less an independent production company that had the license for the film, and then it got kind of semi-financed through other distributors.
Yeah, it's got the Paramount logo down there, though.
Yeah.
But the spine is Warner Brothers, so it's weird. But either way, if Paramount had said, like, put an ad in the trades that said Dee Wallace for actress in a leading role,
Right.
and really gone after it, I feel like you'd have to consider her.
Yeah.
Oh, look at that. Pee out the door.
Yeah.
And obviously, in a book, there's all kinds of different little sub things that can happen. This whole idea of, like, the phone ringing, distracting the dog means, we can get away. Or, it's like...
It's something you can kind of hope on or try to strategize around if it happens again.
But obviously, from their point of view, they have a fear that, opening the door, trying to start the car, anything will alert
attention.
Right, will create noise and attract it back.
And this thing is like, okay, well, yeah, you can see there are other cars laying around, but you have no idea if they're functional. You don't know where the keys are.
Right.
There's too much ambiguity and too much uncertainty to chance anything. You take 5 steps out of that car, you could be dead.
Right. Absolutely. And that was really well presented in the novel.
Yeah. And it's a great way of just like, you start the film as kind of a domestic drama to a certain degree, and then it turns into a survival horror film.
Right.
It's fantastic. The cinematographer Jan de Bont was no stranger to dealing with live animals at this point. You've heard about that film Roar?
Yeah, I've heard about it.
He shot that film.
Oh, interesting.
The live lions and everything.
The waking up and the dog's just looking in the window.
Yeah. Fucking Christ.
There's a lot of trauma in the book that's in her mind that you can't film.
Well, I mean,
but,
she shows a fair amount of it in those eyes, man.
Right. And so, yeah, I don't know. Castle Rock newspaper.
I was going to say it's an extinct idea of the paper boy.
Right.
And no one making any money off of that no more.
No. But that was like, how many kids had their first job as being a paper boy?
Oh, yeah.
Millions. Push button phone, touch tone phone, that was pretty big.
Pretty hot. Pretty new in 83, yeah. Apparently there were points in time where they I guess they had a bunch of like dummy cars that were just bought as used and everything like that. They were going to junk them afterwards. So to get some of these shots, DeBont actually had some of the special effects guy just cut the entire versions of the cars up. So you get the camera in there, move it in certain places.
Oh, really?
Instead of like cramming into a little thing here.
Just mangy and gross.
Yeah. Oh, there's something.
Right, now she's got the idea.
Again, as they had to simulate all the sweat, they had to put all this like glycerine on her, and she really didn't like having that on there. Then because one way or another, you got all these flies coming around, and they're all just going to stick onto everything that's...
Right.
It's just gross. It was really... It was a tough experience, especially when they started to have to strip down further, and it's like 40 degrees outside. And they had to install on her behest heaters into the car, but they couldn't do it while they were filming because it was too loud. So it was as terrible of an experience just physically going through all this stuff. In fact, they're able to channel that into the performances is hell of a damn thing, too.
So right there is just a little bit of a thing. She just makes a comment about the mailman.
Mm-hmm.
And in the book, this was like a really big subplot where she comes to the revelation that the mailman is coming or something.
Sure.
And, oh my God, the mailman's going to come and we're all going to be saved.
Sure.
And then, I want to say it was like, they realized it was Sunday or something and the mailman wasn't coming. Or something like that. But then they did the old, he's holding the mail.
Yeah, because he was intending to go out of town.
Right. And it was like a big dramatic thing. Like,
yeah. Hoping that
right,
realization.
Like, the mailman's going to come, and yeah.
Like, oh, shit. Eyes are almost bloodshot now. And that's the point where they actually use the guy in the suit there, ramming the head into the door.
You couldn't really tell.
No, that's the thing. They use it very strategically. Because when I was watching it, it was like... Because I watched a bunch of features afterwards. It's like, did they have like an animatronic at some point in time? It's like, they had all these different dogs and just one guy in a particular suit for certain shots. Which is pretty impressive.
So good, right?
Oh.
Like, if somebody... They even have him biting the door handle.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
If somebody says to you a pitch of I've got a movie idea about a rabid dog, and two people are afraid to get out of the car because of a dog.
Yeah.
You go, really?
Sure.
Like, we can make a whole movie out of that? But leave it to my boy King.
Oh, yeah.
Look at that. Like,
that dog's doing some stuff
so
here,
well
man.
trained.
And I mean, Bernstein's score is great because he took some cues from old John Williams, his friend, the Jaws theme.
Oh, sure.
And used basically the exact same instruments to create this little low, ominous sort of theme for the dog.
Right.
And it's effective as hell.
Well, I'll talk in a minute here about the changes that were made. Like, when Vic leaves his conference, or whatever it is, that was really when some of the major changes started happening.
I like the makeup here, too. It's getting very subtle. Just getting a little flush, pale.
Right. Extra sweat.
Yeah. The lips are going a little bluish.
In the book, Danny has, like, hallucinations because of his dehydration.
He has here. He's got kind of a stroke thing going on later on.
Right. Which again, like, exclamation points his acting, and you're like, why does this kid not recognized?
Yeah. Because apparently, like, when he was a couple years younger, he actually had like a seizure.
Oh, really?
Real deal thing, and he actually still remembered how he felt going through that experience, so he channeled that into what he does later on here.
There are full-grown adults that cannot channel something and recreate.
Yeah.
Let alone a 6-year-old.
Yeah. Little flies on the window there too.
Yep.
It's all very, very.
They
did such a great job making this illusion for the dead of summer.
Yeah, I wouldn't have known that it was cold.
Not a chance. He's soaked.
They're both soaked.
Oh yeah, but just phenomenal. Phenomenal work from hair and makeup on that regard. Now, Oscar-wise, I'd put on that level too for hair and makeup, with not just them but also the dog too.
Right, exactly. Look at this.
Yeah.
I mean, it just gets worse every time.
Oh yeah, and the fact he's right there.
Look at that. Look at that shot.
Yeah,
it's terrifying.
Yeah, the door doesn't fit anymore.
They're building this tension.
Oh yeah.
And it's I'd seen this movie before, obviously.
Sure.
But it had been a while since I read, since I'd seen it when I read it.
Yeah.
It had been many years.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself as I was reading it, I remember the movie, but I feel like they didn't create the tension in the same way. The quick cuts.
Yeah.
the kid screaming in the back. All of it.
Horror. I mean, we've talked about some other King things like, okay, it's kind of classified as horror. It doesn't really, it's not really horror. This is horror.
This is, right, this is terror. Like, you're wondering, is she going to die?
She going to get her limb ripped off or something?
Right.
Oh, goddamn. The fact that neither one of them had any long-lasting trauma whatsoever off of this thing is amazing.
Right. And no dogs were harmed.
I'm terrified of dogs as it is. If I saw this as a kid,
it would have
been
right.
magnified by like 100%. 100 times as much. And this is one of those phenomenal camera shots, just spinning the whole thing around into space.
Well, it also shows how small the space is.
But the fact he's able to do this, probably almost like took the hood off or something to be able to do this and did like a
twisty from the top?
Yeah, twisty bar or something off the top just to make it spin, because you can't hide anything in this space for that. It's great stuff. It's damn good editing too.
Yeah, that was well done.
Moving from that into this, and it's like it reflects what the audience is kind of feeling in this sort of nightmare, but it's not exactly what he's picturing in his head, but it all kind of fits together in that regard. There's all those existential fears about the entire relationship is falling apart, and he can't rest well or anything like that, and it's the same feeling, but it's not from the same source.
Right.
Between the character and the audience, but it all has a synergy.
So, right here, his decision to leave is motivated by the idea that Donna is currently having an affair with this guy, right?
Yeah. And they've absconded somewhere.
Right. Well, that's not at all what happens. Or, I mean, he does obviously leave to go home.
Yeah.
But this chain of events is completely related to the way that they've set up their affair in the movie.
Yeah.
And we haven't even gotten to the scene, I think it's in the movie, where Kemp goes to their house.
Yeah, he's there. It happens.
All right. We'll come back to the husband here in a minute.
Yeah.
I did make a note on here that Charity Camber, the wife who's away at the sister's house, her and their kid, are like completely non-existent in the back half of this story.
Yeah.
And it's like kind of sad that they just, didn't finish their story in the movie.
To a degree, yeah.
Like they're also on a story, like they have their own story.
Right.
A little ketchup and mustard there on that.
It's grotesque.
And the dog, it is grotesque. And the dog just laying there on the hood.
Yeah. Just staring them down. Oh, just bowls you right over, man. Like she's immersed into the thick of this entire scenario here as an actor.
And this little time lapse.
Yeah.
With the close-up on the sun, just to really drive home how hot it is.
Yeah. And getting bigger shots of the sun every time you get back to it to further emphasize it.
The dehydration, the way that they made up her lips.
Yeah. Getting more pale every time. There we go.
Look at this shit. I mean, and the Oscar goes to...
Oh, yeah.
That's great. She's like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to go to the house.
I'm going to try. The dog's so fast.
He's like clawing at his own throat. Come on. I can't even imagine how hard it would be to put myself as an actor in a space like this.
I mean, like she said, it was exhausting.
Yeah, in the novel here, he absolutely destroys this house. I feel like it's really
It's dialed back.
here, yeah. That's a nice little...
Yeah. Little setup there for tensions. Makes you wonder what would have happened if they actually were there. If it would have gotten even more violent than it did before.
Right. So, he, like, absolutely destroys the house.
Like the makeup on him, he's flush.
Knocking over, like, did that to every room.
Yeah.
Including, I guess, pleasuring himself on the bed or somewhere,
well.
and leaving a reminder, I guess, as it were. So,
The character actor Jerry Harden.
yeah, he's better than everything.
Oh yeah.
So in the story, the police are actually, they find this and are actually the ones that call him to let him know that the house has been vandalized.
Okay.
Which is what brings him back home.
Okay.
So the idea of the affair is not
Hanging over his head.
Right. I mean, it's there,
Yeah.
but
It's not driving his actions.
right. You know, they've kind of changed it in a way to, and they've said, so like, you can't say, well, we're gonna make that his motivating thing, without having what they've done earlier. So I wonder which came first. I wonder if they said, well, we need him to get home faster, so let's just speed up the affair and have him involved in it more at the beginning,
Sure.
you know?
I think it just basically does more to have a direction for his character overall. Otherwise, you're just coming back to him just sitting in this conference and there's nothing happening with him. It's just business. If you have this entire growing
Right. Which, in a story...
wedge between them and that type of thing, it creates a character progression for him.
Right. But he has his own storyline. He's got his own...
Yes, exactly.
And, like, in the story, though, like in the novel, they actually follow through with how he fixes the campaign, the ad campaign.
Okay.
Like they go... Like, his little story has a beginning, middle, and end.
Okay. I like the casting of this guy because he absolutely does not look like the guy who's going to save the day whatsoever. It's like, no, this guy's not saving anyone. Not that fucking shaved off sideburns.
Right.
It's like, this guy got terrible hair. He ain't no hero. He's getting chewed up because that dog's hungry, man. That dog hasn't eaten nothing for a couple of days now. He's gonna eat up like a big old pork chop.
And what a great little twist, right? The idea that, well, the cops know, and the cops are going to come save him.
Yeah. And the fact he's already screwed before he has any clue what the fuck's going on. But they didn't cast like fucking Steve McQueen or something like that. It's like the
right.
Old dumpy guy is like fucking 5 years away from retirement or some shit. Oh yeah. Oh, there you go. Just ripped a piece out of the ribs.
Right. All of that is...
Gotta have some ribs, man.
All of that is a cinematic embellishment. Like, all of that fight happens in the driveway in the novel, but that's fine. We can make it...
We use a little set piece in the barn.
Right, let's just go all
dance
out.
Around a little bit.
We've got all this, might as well.
Yeah.
That's really good. I want my daddy.
Oh,
like,
and just her outburst. I mean,
yes,
it's such a catharsis.
There's also a little bit of a storyline about how the assumption is that Kemp has taken
the kid, and him,
and her
and him. Yeah,
yeah, and. It was like a much more drawn out, like, it motivated his character more than the affair.
Yeah.
It's almost like the husband is doing more police work.
Yeah.
Than, you know, like...
He's being more perceptive about certain things.
Right, like he led them...
proactive.
He's leading them all, like, leading the witness almost.
Yeah.
Like, his ideas are driving the story.
Yeah.
And his actions.
Yeah.
As opposed to being a victim of the story.
Right.
You know what I mean? Which is a big cinematic change.
Right. Well, I mean, it does help to make that the fact that that despite everything that's happened, he has an intense care still for his own family.
Right. Right. It's almost like the trauma has made it, you know, like it's water under the bridge now.
Right. There's something grossly wrong going on right here. And he's got to spring into action and find out exactly what the hell's going on.
And
because no one outside this farm has any clue whatsoever about the dog at all.
Right.
Anybody there's any sort of threat out there, but
anybody that knew is dead.
Yeah. So it's just this alertness about the situation, like something's just not right here, and it's like, well, if they're not with him, then they've got to be somewhere in some sort of potential danger to not be around anywhere, to respond to anyone, to have anyone know where they are.
So good. Guarding the stairs.
Yeah.
The gatekeeper.
Yeah. Oof. This looks so...
Like, I don't want anything to do with
grotesque.
this dog.
Yeah. Gruesome.
I love, like, to your point, the low angle kind of
Yeah.
point of view shot.
Yeah. That looks like someone in a wig. I don't know. They looked a little... The hair looked a little gray. Not blonde.
It could have been an afterthought, like...
Yeah. Stand-in, maybe.
Right. Like, what if we... I wish we had a shot of this.
Yeah.
Well, let's do it
Yeah.
anyway, you know?
There's a particular thing. It's like, I don't want to show a point of the bat hitting the dog because that creates too much of a sympathy.
Right.
It's just an inherent thing for the audience. So they always have it where it's these point of view shots
Right.
where she's swinging and it implies it getting hit. Oof.
And here is where the changes happen.
Okay.
There is no gun in the book whatsoever.
Okay.
None. There's no gun. This is 100% a movie ending, a Hollywood ending.
It is.
Oh, no door handle. Now she can't get in. Like, what a twist, right? Like, she spent the whole movie not being able to get out,
Yeah.
and now she can't get in. We gotta get this kid some water, right?
Oh, yeah.
And even, like, Comatose, the kid is already a better actor than some of the movies we've watched
Yeah.
and covered on this channel. That seems like an inefficient way to
Yeah.
go about it, but I guess in a panic.
Yeah. Look at them cows.
No, it's a great cow. Those kinds of cows don't really exist in New England, by the way.
Probably not.
It's fine.
Not a lot of dairy farms in Maine.
Right, that looked a lot like Wisconsin, but that's fine.
Sure.
Or California. There's dairy in California. So good.
Yeah.
That was well done too. That she was blowing into his closed
Yeah.
mouth.
Yeah.
You know, like
Yeah.
they made it look like she was trying to do CPR, but
But just being way too panicked and just not in the
the right.
clearest frame of mind to do it completely right.
Well, I also think that it was for the safety of the 6-year-old actor.
Sure,
You know
yeah.
what I mean? Like, they were able to make it look like she was doing it, but if you didn't know what you were looking for,
Yeah.
and here we more of our Hollywood ending.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure, I'm 99% sure that in the movie, or in the book, the broken bat to the gut just is what gets Cujo.
Okay.
There's no gun. So that it ends out in the yard.
Yeah.
He doesn't break through the window and all
Sure.
this business. Can you imagine rolling up on this scene?
Yeah, to hell.
Really, really well done.
Yeah.
Really well done. And then it stops.
Yeah.
Guess what? You know what happens in the book?
The kid dies.
The kid dies! I was so angry when I watched it back. I had forgotten that it ended like that. And so I was reading the book and I was like, yeah, like it kind of, you know, she gets him in the house and all that.
Yeah.
But I remembered that. And then I'm reading the book and I'm like, man, this is dark. I like it. Well, and go ahead.
Well, apparently King told the filmmakers, like, if there was any one book he'd go back and rewrite, it would be Cujo, because I don't know if he was in a dark state of mind or something like that, writing that ending, but he approved them not killing the kid at the end of the movie.
Well, as we've talked about, you just don't kill kids, right?
I mean, if you want this to be a blockbuster success, you're not killing the kid at the end of the movie.
Right. So I get it. I understand.
This thing made about $20 million off a $6 million budget, so it's very successful.
Right.
More successful than Christine was a couple months after this, where it kind of maybe about broke even, but not quite.
Right. And where's the dead zone in this? That was a little before?
I think that's right in between them, honestly.
Is it really? So are there 3 all in 83?
I think that was in October of 83. Yeah, so it was within like a 5-month span. You got Cujo, The Dead Zone, and then Christine.
What a run for Stephen King.
It's a hot time for King adaptations. I mean, running through it, then you got Firestarter the next spring, I think it was.
Right. So, like I don't know what... It must have been The Shining. Must have been the catalyst of...
Yeah, really kicking it off.
Right. And the whole idea of adapting King works.
Yeah.
And
then Carrie than that, and then everything else just more.
But I think The Shining was the one that, like, really blew up.
Right, you got all the tour on the helm of the...
Right. So... You know, and then basically they said, "Oh, whatever he's written, let's do that."
Even if it's not finished writing it yet, let's license it now. Let's option it now.
Right. Which almost isn't it? It's weird how the circle closes. That's almost how it is now. The success of it makes people like literally option everything immediately.
Yeah.
Like he just announced. Interesting, fun timing.
Sure.
He actually just announced his next book, which is going to have a prequel to Cujo in it.
Okay.
So,
right.
I don't know what that involves, but there's some sort of Cujo-related story in his next novel, and I'm sure that they'll make it into a movie, and we can cover it.
We'll see about that. But anyway, guys, thanks for joining us on this one. And we'll be back with more King on the next commentary very, very soon.
See you next time.
Bye-bye.